a pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable too. Your horse racing fantasy comes true. But no, stable duel.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
That's what we're going to be doing. We are going to be playing some Stable Duel today. You can't hear that song and start and not at least be kicking the shoulders a little bit, me in the legs a little bit, getting a little bit into the little Bobby Brown, action. That was late 80s, early 90s stuff right there. That was when I was a little bit younger. But today and this weekend, we're going to have some fun with you. We got Matt DeSantis. We got Barry, the Sniper Spears. And this is going to be, I think, our third installment now of This Weekend in Stable Duel, where we help you out. We'll go through the Friday and Saturday contest schedule. We'll give out a couple best bets for some different tracks on Friday, Saturday. We'll try to help you have a great Stable Duel weekend. And honestly, we'll just remind you at all the big Stable Duel contests coming up every weekend. Guys, there's some X Games this weekend. I can promise you, I talk about almost everything on my shows. Recap. But I can't really give a whole lot of help when it comes to X Games. I'm not someone who can necessarily direct people in the right way. But what I can do is tell you it's totally free. So it doesn't really matter if you're terrible at this for Stable Duel. It's not like you're going to be losing a bunch of money. And if for some reason you do win, you'll actually take home your share of cash prizes. If you need a little bit more help, I'm going to pull up a site also that I just saw. So if you're playing around today, first, let's take a look at the Stable Duel schedule one more time. You saw it earlier there on the video. So for Stable Duel, we have Friday. These are your Friday games. So there's an X Games free ride. Matt, I'm not sure about you. I'm sure not into the X Games all that much, but I thought this was really fun. Stable Duel's done this a lot the last couple of years. There was Royal Rumble. There have been F1 races they've done stuff with, just all sorts of crossovers. And this one's just a straight X Games game. You build your lineup based on the races, based on the competitions for today. And there are games today and tomorrow. So, hey, they're just doing whatever they can to try to get some extra new eyeballs on Stable Duel, some crossover stuff. This is a really fun idea.
Absolutely. And I'm one of those people. I love watching the X Games because I lack all hand-eye coordination. So I would look at this and I'm like, well, I'd break my neck 20 seconds into this contest.
Like no shot for me right there.
It is. I'm so impressed by the X Game. I just love watching it. I always have since I was a kid. It really got its start back in the 90s when we were all younger and had less gray hair and we're a little more active, but it's a great, and I will give you one play. I'll give people one play, which is Kelly Sidaru going off at 8-1 and $3,000. I think that's the value play for the X Games contest today.
I love that. So Matt even dishing out some X Games stuff. The one site I was mentioning, I'll pull up for you too. It's like anything. Like for me, whenever I'm covering anything, it's never like any get rich quick scheme. It's just I'll just go to work, So if you want to get a little bit more information, you can go here to xgames.com/events, and then you get the invited athletes. So you can click on each person individually, and you can get some information about them. You'll find out, some of their recent records. You can find out a little bit about them. What competitions where they've really succeeded and how some of their recent past performances are. Hey, it sort of looks like racing, right? Got the past performances there. Where did they finish? What style, everything. So X Games, having some fun today, this weekend. X Games 2022 Aspen and Stable Duel, giving you the opportunity to play for free. But we are going to get involved on Friday, Saturday games all over the place. So for the next, couple months, it'll probably be a lot of Friday, Gulfstream, Tampa, Santa Anita, Sam Houston. Those have been the tracks we've been rolling with for a few weeks. And as we get into start handicapping some of these tracks, if you want to handicap along with us, you can do so right now using DRF Formulator. And Formulator, which is very nice, you can actually access now for free they have an incredible promotion. So if you're not a member of DRF Bets right now, you can go sign up. And I know 250 sometimes is, depending on what you're wagering, that might be a little bit much for you. But if you do deposit 250, you get an instant 250 match bonus. So you turn your 250 instantly into 510 because they give you that 250 back plus a $10 free bet plus 10 free formulator cards. So you're going to have 510 bucks. You're going to have 10 formulator cards. And then every 50 bucks you wager, you get another formulator card. Honestly, I think this is the way it should be, right? If you're betting the races a lot, if you're playing, I don't think you should have to spend all that much for past performances. If you want extra features, extra specific things, that's one thing. But if you just want a really good basic past performance and you're going to be betting, DRF is going to be giving you those now for free. Make sure you sign up, take advantage. This promotion goes for the next 2 months, all the way, 3 months almost, all the way through the middle of April. So all those Kentucky Derby preps that we're going to be talking about, Pegasus weekend, next weekend, you need help for any of those big cards, they've got you covered. You're not going to have to pay for the past performances if you're betting on those races. So check out the great promotions over there at DRF, and we are going to check out some races for Friday. My man, Barry, let's talk a little Friday action. Where do you want to head for one of your Friday plays?
Well,
Gulfstream. Always going to Gulfstream. That's your
exactly.
home base.
That's my home track.
Area. Okay, as I start pulling up Gulfstream, tell everybody about how the Tampa week was last weekend. You went over there. You hung out with some of the Stable Duel people. You were live on site. Tell us a little bit about how that was.
Man, it was so great. We had a great time. There was a pretty good turnout. I met some people that aren't on Twitter that play Stable Duel, and there was a lot of people there.
I thought the whole world was just Twitter.
I know, right? You would think. Yeah, I met a couple that weren't actually on Twitter that play Stable Duel, and a lot of the people that do were there that were in the area. So it was a really good time. My family was there. We had
I saw yelling.
Yeah, Breezy, my wife. Chuck Simon came out, my partner.
Nice.
Yeah, so we had a really good time.
Too?
Who?
Sid? Was Sid out there?
Oh, Sid, yeah, bloodstock extraordinaire, pedigree extraordinaire. Sid Fernando was there, my guy. He's just recently moved to Tampa, so
Nice.
it was his actually first time at Tampa Bay Downs. So, what an introduction, because there was food, there was drinks, it was just a great time. The weather was perfect. Couldn't ask for anything else. The people at Stable Duel were absolutely gracious with everything and hospitality. It was just phenomenal. Next time they have one anywhere, I recommend anybody to go.
I was extremely jealous that I didn't get the chance to get on out there and hang with all of you. But now we're going to get in and start talking this weekend. We're going to make some money. Next weekend, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot of Gulfstream Park Saturday, because next weekend, Saturday, they're going to have a massive Pegasus contest that I've already seen in the works. So we'll be having a lot of focus on Saturday, as in the week leading up. You'll start hearing about horses and their prep for the big races next weekend and the big card there. So where do you want to go, Barry, for Friday Gulfstream?
My first pick, I have two at Gulfstream today, is in race number 7.
Okay, let's head to the 7th. We are going to go on the dirt there. We're on the synthetic.
Yes, on the synth. I know a lot of horse players like to gripe about the synthetic races and, how they look visually and so on. But I think they offer a lot of opportunity for some prices. So those are the ones that I kind of concentrate a little bit more on, because synthetic is new. And what I've learned over the years is that synthetics tracks change over time. They get better, actually. So they get more fair and play to form. Yes, more than they do in the beginning. So I think there's a little bit of that going on with this Gulfstream Tapeta surface. But this race is a really cheap claimer. Non-winners at 2, 12.5. And it's really interesting race because there's really no speed here, like literally none. The horse
there's no speed on the synthetic, they're just crawling on there,
They do anyway, which is crazy, and they just crawl at 50-second splits constantly, and the horse on the lead doesn't win. So you can tell by that that the way the track is playing is kind of fair in a sense, because you see how they travel in the backstretch and everybody's all grouped together, and it's all about positioning and somewhat becomes a jockey's race. But in this race in particular, the horse that I ended up going to was the 5 Kentucky Pride, with Edwin Gonzalez for Bob Hess. The horse hadn't been out in a while, since March, but has a significant class edge on these horses. There's nobody that's really outstanding in this field, which kind of dismisses for me the fact that this horse is coming from a pretty long layoff. The horse to the outside, the Saffie Joseph horse, doesn't really have great numbers. He's stepping up in class actually from an 8,000 to 12.5, but doesn't look all that great. And that horse is probably going to take a lot of money. The 2 horse Reason the Glass is another one that looks okay, and just has trouble finishing races off, at least in the short career. And they're both trained by Saffie Joseph, incidentally. But I just think this horse, Kentucky Pride, could sit a good trip. Has a track's top rider here in Edwin Gonzalez. So I think he can get this horse in the right spot and make that run, because I just think this horse may have a distinct class edge over these.
Kentucky Pride, perfect price at 6-1, only going to cost you $5,000. That's right on that average of what you need to build.
Right, and if he gets bet down, it works to your advantage. I mean, not so much through the windows, but in Stable Duel, it's definitely gonna help you.
So that's Kentucky Pride on Friday for Barry. While we're at Gulfstream Park, I believe you said you had a couple on Friday at Gulfstream, right, Matt?
Yeah, actually, we can go to race 1. And sometimes I'm hesitant to play a long shot in the first race. That's
you want to get
always
those negative points right off the bat, right?
Scary proposition.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be sitting in 313th place in the free contest after 1. But I'm going to look at Cupid Austin, which is the 4 horse in the first race. This is a horse, to Barry's point about synthetic, this is, and we should note before we go on anymore on Friday, they are off the turf at Gulfstream. So those turf races are going to be on the Tapeta synthetic surface. So that's something to keep in mind when you're capping the 2 turf races there. But this is a horse in Cupid Austin that is going back to the distance where it's run best, 5.5 furlongs on the Tapeta. This is a horse that's getting blinkers. I always like those equipment changes and updates. So this is a horse that should be much more forwardly placed. And in general, I would say, these maiden claiming, $12,500 maiden claimers, this is not where I want to spend $8,000-$9,000 on a favorite. I mean, that's just not, they don't deliver a lot of times.
You don't trust them.
No, right? and there's a reason they're in this race, and it's because they haven't really run to form, or they haven't run, very well to this point. So I just, these are the types of races where I'll look for long shots, and I think this is a horse that had its best effort at 5.5 furlongs on the synthetic, and from a speed figure standpoint, that race that it had 2 back was really right there with a lot of other horses in this field, with a 35 Beyer speed figure. You look at some of the other favorites, We've Had Enough, who's going off at 7-2, has run an all-time best of a 39. So not that far off from where some of the favorites are. And if you also look at the workouts, this horse works out on the synthetic. And this horse works out blazing on the synthetic. 35-1, 3 furlong, 48, 4 furlong. So this is a horse that is clearly comfortable on the surface. That's something I do tend to look at a little bit more and more, is do they work out on the surface? And when I see them working out on the Tapeta, that's usually a little bit of a play for me. At 20-1, this horse is going to cost you almost next to nothing on Stable Duel. And I just think this is a horse in a race that doesn't have anything that's too overwhelming. Why not give it a shot?
You heard of Austin 316. Well, Matt 316 said Cupid Austin is going to give you a stone cold stunner right now. Oh, hell yeah. Cupid Austin in race number 1 for Matty over at Gulfstream Park. So while we're at Gulfstream Park for Friday, Barry, where do you want to head next?
Race 9.
Okay, let's get to the 9th race.
Race 9. Yeah, it's another synthetic special here.
Beautiful. First level allowance, optional 75. Where are we going to head?
I landed on number 4, Fish Mooney. and only because, and I only picked this race because I think the 7 is going to be up against it. Sister Nell, out of the Pletcher barn, ran good first time out on the turf. Coming in to this race, it's kind of curious that this horse goes in this spot, on the synthetic after a pretty good run on the turf first time out at 14-1, mind you.
Yeah.
But these races again are very, very slow early, and I think Sister Nell is going to be up against it because she may get hung out wide the whole way, and that's not going to be a good thing, especially when the real running starts probably at the top of the stretch. I thought that Fish Mooney has some decent form in state bred races. Now, has won on the Tapeta first time on the surface back in October. Then came into a small juvenile stake, ran second to a horse named Lemieux, who was pretty good, that was coming in from Woodbine. Off the layoff, ran another decent effort, and I think this horse just kind of has an affinity for the track.
Yeah.
Not to mention that the stablemate, who showed a lot of speed last time on the synthetic, inside of her, Palmatch, I don't know, but that horse showed a lot of speed, and I think this might set Fish Mooney up for the win today.
Yeah.
Yep.
Should compliment her there with the running style right next to her. So you got one Cassie showing a little more speed. You've got Fish Mooney sitting off a little bit, second off the bench. Another one that's perfectly priced for you at 6-1, 5,000 is not going to cost you a whole lot, right on that average of what you need when you're building your stable dual lineups. Matt, you said you had one more for Friday at Gulfstream?
Yeah, we'll go to race 6. And this is again, I loved making my living on those maiden optional claimers or maiden claimers. And this is only a 6-horse field for a maiden optional. And again, from like a strategic standpoint in stable duel, 6-horse races, if you can find a good value there, it's not bad because, these horses, in some cases can finish pretty far back, but as long as they beat 2 or 3 other horses, you're getting some positive points for a long shot. So I'm looking at the number 4, Poseidon Sun. This is a horse that is actually getting a little bit of a class drop and going from, $53,000 maiden special weights down to maiden optional claimers. I do think the 2 favorites are relatively strong in this race, Dubrovnik and Stormy Pattern, but I don't see a clear third horse in this race. You have Machisto, the 3, that's going off Tapeta and is coming off a layoff. King Tsunami, who I know we actually talked about last time, I think, and kind of but this is now the 3rd surface for this horse in 3 races. So I don't know how this horse is going to necessarily respond to the dirt. So in a small field where I have some questions about some of those middle horses, Poseidon Sun is a horse that when dropped down to, state bred maiden claiming or a maiden race a few races ago, ran a really strong 3rd in a 7-horse field. I just think you're getting some decent value here. Really nice, very sharp workout on January 16th, 3 furlong workout and 35-2. So, I like to see that. I think, if you look at that last race, not a great effort. Obviously was, struggling a little bit at a mile and a 16th, is cutting that extra half furlong off this time out, going a mile. The last 2 efforts at a mile finished, 4th in pretty large fields. So I think, cutting back to a smaller field, 10-1, that's going to cost you $1,000 in stable duel. I can absolutely see this horse hitting 3rd. And if one of the top 2 favorites, doesn't fire, I could absolutely see this horse getting 2nd. So for $1,000, you're getting a decent amount of positive points.
Poseidon Sun there for Matt, another Gulfstream Friday play. So before we leave Gulfstream Friday, do we have any more over at Friday for Gulfstream? We'll finish up now. Matt, you said you have one at least for Tampa. How about you, Gary? Anything over at Tampa?
Nope, Santa Anita.
I don't.
Gary. So let's go.
And I don't have anything for Tampa on Friday. I have something for Tampa on Saturday.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. So we'll head to Saturday Santa Anita, or we'll go Friday Santa Anita, and then we'll go Friday Sam Houston. Then we'll shift over to Saturday. So Barry, tell us for Santa Anita for Friday, where are you looking to head?
I believe I'm doom scrolling here to get to the race.
I've got a couple for Santa Anita Friday myself. I'm in the 4th and also in the 8th. And Matt, you're at Santa Anita on Friday too, right?
Yep, I have one for Santa Anita.
7th. I'm in the 7th.
So let's go, Barry. Race number 7, Santa Anita on Friday. Tell us who you like here.
I like the 1 Paroli. This is such a strange race. You know, everybody looks good, to be honest with you. None of these horses look bad. You know, and the reason I ended up going with the 1 is I think the Baffert horses are going to take a lot of money. Obviously, the 3 are Magnac and Kerouac. I think they're both going to take a ton of cash, and they don't, you know, obviously they can win. There's no question about that at all. But when you can get a horse that does look okay going against Baffert horses out there, you can get extremely good value. And I'm not too keen on horses going long first time out winning. I don't see it very often. I mean, it's not impossible. And in all honesty, a short field is a field that somebody can do it. But I still like to try to play against those types.
I completely agree with you. Completely agree. It's hard. You can do it. You can get fit. But generally what happens, the horses that are debuting there, they're slower. That's why they're debuting going longer. It's less of the, they're a distance horse, and more of like, they're not really
They
fast.
don't get out of the gate. Yeah.
They can't really keep up sprinting. So sure, then sometimes they can recover well and they'll be fine. But yeah, I think more times than not, playing those horses going long first out, especially if they're going to be shorter prices, I'll take the horse with a little foundation.
Right. Exactly. A little bit of experience doesn't hurt either, especially when, you know, all these horses, they only have a couple of starts apiece, the ones that have run. And honestly, the ones that did run, like Corsica Flavor, the 4, Armagnac, they didn't run that great. I mean, granted, Armagnac was behind Wharton, who I think is a very, very good horse. It wasn't impressive, like the way that horse ran to be 7-5 in this spot.
Completely agree.
You know, South Street I used over the summer and just hasn't really turned into anything so far. You know, not that couldn't turn around today, but I'm willing to bet against that, especially in a short field. Stable Duel in this race, all you really have to do is beat one horse. I don't think Corsica Flavor really has a chance here. So Paroli didn't run all that bad last time.
Nope.
Considering, you know, behind Doppelganger, who might be a little bit of a monster here. But I'll give that race Lasix, first time Lasix, stretching out.
This is McCarthy's second out. McCarthy's
Right.
second time out is incredible. Over his last 115 starts, he's won 23 of them, 20%. 50% of them have finished in the money. And if you just were blindly betting $2 on every Michael McCarthy runner that runs second time out, you'd be making $3.10. You know, like, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for us, you know, who are playing the races every day, wouldn't you love to go to the track, give someone 2, get back 310, and just watch? I'll do it every day if you want. Give me 310 every single day. That's not a bad way to go.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
he
And then
incredible in this situation.
Then 2 workouts since that are pretty good, and I like the longer works for a race like this. So, you know, I think Paroli has a good shot to win. And even, you know, from a Stable Duel perspective, even if this horse doesn't win, I think they're still going to show, you know, give a good account of himself and be right around it at the end.
Not going to hurt you in a small field when other people are going to probably be spending up there, and you're going to be right along on that average.
Correct.
Here with Paroli. So I agree. You're going to get first time Lasix. You got the experience, probably be a little more forwardly placed. Second time out, be able to secure a nice cozy spot from the rail inside there. Just kind of see who goes to the outside. Maybe you can sit second or third. Paroli for the Sniper in race number 7 at Santa Anita on Friday. Matt, I'm going to head to race number 4. So we'll take a look there. And then you're going to be heading where on Friday, Matt?
I will head to race 2 after that.
Okay, cool. So we'll take a look at the 4th race. I'm going to 4 Left here. So 4 Left has a little bit of backclass. This is a horse who's faced really good company throughout his career. And he kind of tailed off form a little bit last year. Won his debut, came right back against Stakes Company. He was against grade 1 foes early on in his career. And then after, you know, being early after 2, and he was precocious, they were trying to figure out where he fit best. They sort of realized that he's decent on the turf. His races on the grass are pretty good. Take a look. You see the grade 3 Cecil B. DeMille, where he's behind Smooth Like Straight going a mile. Then you'll see the Quick Call, where he actually finished third in that race against grade 3 company. And then the next time he was on the grass, it was going 6.5 furlongs in the grade 3 Franklin Sampson. And that was at Kentucky. 6.5 at Kentucky is really, really tough. That's not like a turf sprint. That's almost like a mile race with how deep and how tough that track is. And what I like is he looks like he got back into form in his last two. And people might look at those two races and go, oh, okay, small field at Santa Anita and then small field at Los Al, field of 4. Come on, Gino. That wasn't that great of a race, right? But look at who he ran into in that field. Law-abiding Citizen. You know, Law-abiding Citizen, this horse is a multiple graded stakes winner. This horse is grade 1 placed. So because he was at Los Al, it was a nice comeback race for him just to kind of get his year going. I think he kind of got a little unlucky for left in running into a horse like this in a field of 4 at Los Alamitos. And I wonder if because of seeing that race, he may be a little kind of under the radar here. He's 5-1. He has great speed. He's going to put himself in a nice striking spot. I think the two, and I never worry about like with O'Neill and their barn and their connections and their owners when they're aggressive, when they drop horses in or when they, you know, go claim horses, because that's just what they do. They're in the claiming business. They have a lot of different owners. They'll put horses where they think they should win. Right now, this is a great spot at 40 for 4 left with some of that speed. So I'm going to be using the 2-4 left. 5-1 on the morning line, 6,000 in your stable dual lineup. So right about in that average that we've been talking about. Grade 3 placed on the turf sprinting last year. All 3 turf tries against graded stakes company. Now you're going to go back to the grass after a couple solid races off the bench. So that's for me in race number 4. Matt, you said you're heading to the second. So let's go back a few races earlier on Friday and tell us who you're going to be looking at in this 32 claimer.
Yeah, so we should point out for the Santa Anita on Friday, there's only 8 races overall on the card. So from a stable duel standpoint, you're going to have to double up in multiple races.
And let's be honest, this weekend at Santa Anita, the cards are a little bit of a struggle. They are. They're not. They're like last week. There's some good days, some good races. Because of the extra day of racing, it hurts them because there's not a lot of horse population out here. So because they raced on Monday, it ends up impacting the races for the upcoming weekend. They're just a few less. And that happens. You'll see it when they race that extra holiday. So it's a little more difficult to find big prices this weekend at Santa Anita.
Yeah, it is. And so race 2 is an interesting one because with only 8 races on the card from a stable duel perspective, you don't really want to skip a race. And this one has 2 very strong favorites. And this goes back to something I mentioned earlier with Gulfstream. How much do you really want to spend $9,000 plus, maybe even $10,000 on Saul's Call for a horse in a claiming race? I mean, that's, you know, a lot of times I would look at that and go, maybe I'll just go to the next race. But in a 5-horse field, I'm going to go with the number 2 horse. I'm Still Thirsty. This is a horse that, do I think this horse is going to beat Saul's Call or Tiz Lightning? Probably not. But I look at the other 2 horses in the race, Prince Hussar, who regularly finishes last or second to last and seems to be a workout warrior and is just like a horse that blows you off the screen on, you know, workouts and, you know, but on the day of the race doesn't show up. I'm Still Thirsty, meanwhile, came out, ran second 2 races ago to Saul's Call, beat Princess Hussar in that race, ran its best speed figure of a 60 in that race, pretty comparable level race, came back and ran a mile the next time out. Really, obviously, this horse is not built for a mile, and so is cutting back down to 5.5 furlongs. And so in a 5-horse field, I just don't have any confidence in the 1 or the 5-horse, which is a quarter horse, or looks to be more of a quarter horse breed. So again, from a stable duel perspective, you're going to need to save some money on some of these races, and you're going to need to find a price at 8-1 for $3,000. This horse is going to get bet down. I mean, because there's no other. I mean, unless the 3 and the 4 just take all of the money.
But he's going to get the trip. Too. I mean, we'll see how good he is, but there's nobody else that closes.
No,
at all in this race. They're all horses that want to be forwardly placed. The 2 main favorites in here are the 2 main paces. They're going to be softening each other up. The 5 to the outside, like you said, is coming out of a quarter horse race. This is a really good horse to just kind of grind into a spot, pick up some pieces, and hopefully get that perfect fall into a trip.
Yeah, no, and I think the floor for this horse is third, and then maybe if something crazy happens, maybe you get a second. But I can't see this horse falling outside of the top 3. And for $3,000, that's kind of what you're looking for in this type of a race.
I know you're.
I love playing horses like this in stable duel when I have little money left, and even in a situation where you use 2 in the same race.
Yep.
I mean, horses like this are perfect because they can just pass tired horses late, and kind of get you in the exacta or even first and third, and you're sitting pretty.
You know what you're going to get with them, right? And that's what you have to weigh these decisions when you're making your lineup and you're putting them together, right? Some races, like Matt said, he's like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go 15 or 20 to 1 in the first race. I know that this horse might finish dead last, but if I can get this one home, I put myself in such a great spot if I can finish third or something like that moving forward. So yeah, you always got to kind of weigh those pros and cons. You got to make your list like Ross and Rachel did in Friends, the ankles, but she's not Rachel, one of those. And I was going to say the name of this horse, Matt. I know you're a wrestling fan too. There was an incredible promo that formerly Dean Ambrose, now John Moxley, just cut on AEW this weekend. He had some personal struggles in life. He was actually off TV for a few months because he had alcohol problems and he was dealing with, and he came back and he cut on TV this incredible promo, his little speech that was it was like an inspirational talk, but also like a wrestling promo. And at the very end, he said, "I'm still thirsty, but I'm not. The only thing I'm drinking now is blood." And it was actually pretty good. It was like I got pumped up. I wanted to go punch someone after. So I guess
I love it.
I'm still thirsty is going to be a play for.
Speaking of wrestling, I'm not a huge wrestling fan, but just as a fun fact, is my first date with my wife was at an NXT match in Orlando.
Really?
Fantastic.
Wow.
I love it.
That is cool. That is awesome. I love hearing that. That is great. NXT down there in Florida too. They had quite a run for a few years where they were the hot new promotion. And we'll have to have a wrestling chat one time. We'll bring Barry in so he can ask some of the novice questions that all the people who are like, "What the hell are these guys talking about?" would ask. So yeah, with the Royal Rumble just a week away, there's going to be a lot of wrestling on That's What G Said next week. But we've got some more racing for Friday. Barry, while we're at Santa Anita, did you have anything else at Santa Anita for Friday?
But of course.
Awesome.
No, I don't. I'm just kidding.
Not for Saturday.
Just kidding.
I got one more
Saturday
for Santa Anita, and then we'll start looking. I think we're gonna have 1 or 2 for Sam Houston, then we'll flip to Saturday. For Santa Anita for Friday, I really had, like I said, a tough time with this card finding anything creative because I'm not going to come here and give you horses that are really, really short prices. As you can see, we're all always trying to give you the best that we can. And I'm going to look at Ready at Midnight here in race number 8. Now, this is a horse who comes in from Turfway, was at Hawthorne prior to that. This barn is excellent. The Brittany Vandenberg barn, they win a ton of races all over the place. And now they have some horses out at Santa Anita. They just ran second earlier in the week with a really live horse. And I think Ready at Midnight just returning to the turf. Like, look at the last time this filly was on the green. She won at Arlington pretty impressively against maiden 25s. She has some other grass races there that are very competitive. There are absolutely no monsters in this race whatsoever. And this horse at 6 to 1, I think with a lot of these horses coming in, people are going to sort of be a little weary of them, because we don't see as many horses coming in for maybe Hawthorne Turfway from these circuits. So I don't think people will want to gravitate and jump in right away until they see this barn start to string together a few wins at that nice 6 to 1 price, right around 5,000 for me. Ready at Midnight will be one of my 2 Santa Anita Friday stable dual plays. Before we move on from Santa Anita Friday, did you have anything else here, Matt? Nothing more for Friday. Great. Let's head. But you said you did have one for Sam Houston for Friday?
Yep, I have one for Sam. Yep.
So let's take a look at Sammy H for Friday. Shout out to Mike, who is I was watching Matt, and you and I were talking before we jumped on here. He said Was that you who was alive in the contest last night? It was actually Mike who was hanging out with that, who was talking. So, Mike, good luck to you. Hopefully, you can get right back on that horse tonight and get right back up in that stable duel game. Where are we going to look for your plays today, Matt?
We're going to go to race 5 for stable duel, and we're going to go to a horse in the vault, which is the 10 horse in this race. And this is one that just struck me as really an interesting play. This horse has run one time in its career on turf, and this is a turf race. And also, and then went and threw up its best speed figure ever on turf. And they just decided never to run the horse on turf again. And I was just, and some days you just look at this, you're like, why didn't you follow up on turf? This horse perked up 20 points from a buyer speed figure. And so went right back to dirt and kind of went back to kind of middling performances. But, like I said, ran its best race by a mile on turf at 5 furlongs at Remington Park in an allowance race. That 64 buyer speed figure is right there with every other horse in this field. This is a horse that's going off a 10-1 that's going to cost you $1,000. Like I said, ran. And this is interesting as well. I sometimes like to look at horses that have the same morning line as the horse that I'm picking. So just by comparison, there's another horse, Irma M, in this race that's also at 10-1. In the vault has a 13-point buyer speed figure advantage on the best effort Irma M has, and they're both 10-1. Well, to me that's an obvious kind of a place where we can take advantage of that morning line a little bit. And so I just think this is one where the favorite certainly does look very solid, Queen of the Lane on turf, but the second choice has never run on turf, has no form on turf, has no pedigree that's obvious on turf. And so I just saw this horse as in the vault, as this horse popped up, ran once on turf, ran well, and I'm not really overwhelmed by anybody else in the field. I think it's really wide open, maybe after the favorite. And at 10-1, I just really like the value here. I think the outside post position should actually help this horse a great deal because this horse does like to be forwardly placed. And so he'll be able to, fall into that, 2, 3, 4 position and pick a spot and use that early speed. But at 10-1 in the vault on turf, I'm a fan of it, Sam Houston.
In the vault.
It looks like that horse, they couldn't find a turf spot after that.
Yeah,
that
I know.
And same thing with the other horse, but I really like this play. I mean, Frank Lucarelli is very, very sharp, and I hope
he started the last 2 years going out to Sam Houston.
Exactly, and I think this is the reason why, so you can get these kind of turf runners out there. So, hopefully you get that 10-1.
Yeah. This horse makes a lot of sense. Another horse, just in my handicapping of this, I had the 10 and some exotics. The 6 Still of the Night. Keep an eye on this one too. If you're playing like pick 4s, pick 5s and stuff, this horse has really good grass form to go back to. One of these where you can just toss the last race, needed it. It was a prep, hadn't run since September. And then the September and August races, those are against open first level allowance runners. You see back here some pretty nice races on the grass too. And Still of the Night is going to be a nice price of around 8-1, maybe one to keep an eye on there. Matt and I both think you might be able to find some prices in the 5th. I'll go one race before you though, Matt, and I'll go back to race number 4 at Sam Houston. I think we can get to the 5 here. Scarzano, who's 10-1 on the morning line, I don't think will be 10-1. I think Brett Calhoun has a big shot to win a couple races on Friday, and this might be one of them. So the way the Scarzano first all comes in from Golden Gate. So 2 starts back, he was at Los Alamitos. He ran into a horse named Moonlight Dioro. Moraz was also in that race. Moonlight Dioro came out of this race to win the Grade 3 Las Virgenes, has been multiple graded stakes placed since then behind, as time goes by, who absolutely dusted a field by 13 a few weeks ago. And then Moraz, who we've also talked about on this show before. Moraz was in the Grade 3. Robert Frankel set the pace that day. Moraz ran in the Kentucky Oaks and his multiple graded stakes placed. So just from a competition standpoint, some of the horses that Scarzano has faced, I just are so much better than like this group here. And from a pace standpoint, the way this race is going to shape up. So encouraging the heavy favorite here will likely be forwardly placed. They flashed speed last time out. Going to have to deal with Mom's Prayer, who's some cheap speed to the outside. And then you also have the other, I think major player in the race is for Diodoro, first start off the claim, who is just one-dimensional speed that's going to go. So if the 3 and the 6 press each other with a little bit of pressure from the 7, I think the 5 can carve out a trip really nicely right behind. What's wrong with the Golden Gate race against Maiden Specials back in October? Like, that's a really good effort in a field of 11 at 41-1, finishing third. That was off the bench, hadn't run in a few months. So it's really just, if this horse takes to the track, takes to the surroundings. I also like the fact that Scarzano has been over at Sam Houston. You see they have 3 works over the track, so they've been able to acclimate themselves over at the course there at Sammy H. I'm looking at Scarzano 10-1 on the morning line. This barn is excellent with new acquisitions. They're really good, plus a 180-day layoff. I think you can make a couple tiny excuses, toss the debut, toss the race at Los Al. Now look at the other 3 races, how much better this horse's form looks when you're excusing the debut, you're excusing the race where they're beaten by 38. It's like, oh, 4th beaten a half length at Emerald. Oh, 3rd in a field of 11. Oh, came back at Golden Gate in a maiden special, flashed a little bit of speed, but then tired. It was a little wide and then was sent to the bench for a year. So there were obviously some physical issues. You can like go through and it all makes sense. Like when he runs well, when he doesn't run well, she doesn't run well. Scarzano. And it's got this like great Italian sound to it too, which just makes it even better. So I like it that much more. Gino Nicola Bacola Scarzano in race 4 at Sam Houston for 1,000 for me. Where do you want to head? Do you have another play at Sam Houston today, Matt, or was that all for you today?
Nope, that was it for me today.
Okay, cool. I'll just show you one more while we're here for Friday before we jump on to Saturday. Just take a look in race number 6 at another price horse. I actually, in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th tonight, I have horses that are 10-1, 8-1, 8-1, 8-1 that I really like. So I'm going to play a couple pick 3s in the mix right there and hope I can just catch maybe 1 or 2 of them rolling pick 3s, some rolling doubles. One of those horses is the one, Oh Marvelous Me. Guys, I mean, just like dig into this horse's form. It really fits. This is a horse who I think people are going to be a little cold on because you see some of that Emerald form and they're not sure how it really stacks up. But Oh Marvelous Me came right over and beat a 25 claiming group at Remington Park last time out. This is a horse who should be able to sit a perfect trip. Going to stretch out from 6 back to a mile. Shouldn't be any issue. It looks like Gold Crusher has pretty good speed. Busy Legs, pretty good speed here. Drifting West, I think, is going to be forwardly placed. So you're going to have, 3 or 4 in here that are going to be on the engine. I think it should, have a plan or the outside's another one. Heroic Song. The one, Oh Marvelous Me, I'm hoping they sit 3rd or 4th, save all the ground, and give themselves a great opportunity turning for home when the real running starts. So Oh Marvelous Me at 3-1 won't cost you a whole lot to use in your stable dual lineups for Sam Houston for Friday. We're going to shift on over from Friday to Saturday. Barry, for Saturday, we're going to head back to Gulfstream Park.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Tell me where we're going to be looking for Gulfstream for Saturday.
Race 6 and race 9.
6 and 9 for Gulfstream Saturday. Gulfstream on Saturday with a couple big contests. What are some of the games that we've got on Saturday for you? Let's see. I'll pull up the schedule right now. But a few different options for Saturday games.
I believe we have the big $10,000 game at Gulfstream on Saturday.
Oh, that's the one. And then next week, mixed
40,000
game.
Yeah.
Woo! That's going to be a blast. Okay, so Barry, one more time for Saturday where we're headed.
Race 6.
Okay, race 6. Let's get you over there. And who we're looking at in the 6th?
The 3, Tag Her.
Tag Her.
Yeah, this is another Cassie runner that I think has a little bit of upside. I'm kind of, torn on why this horse is 10-1 morning line. I don't think that this horse is going to be 10-1 once the betting opens, which is a good thing for a stable duel because you're not going to spend a lot for a horse that has a better shot than his odds actually show. I don't know. This is a race full of a bunch of first timers that don't look all that great. I mean, the Chad Brown horse Folklaw on the outside is going to take a lot of money, of course. But there's no reason why that horse can't get beat here. I mean, I think that's why the lukewarm 5-2 on the morning line is the reason why. But
I mean, when you're in for 50 first time out and they pay 320 for you,
it's not a good sign,
right? And that doesn't mean they can't win, or it's not like this horse isn't better than a lot. But it's a red flag for me right off the bat.
exactly. And it's just a bunch of mediocre horses here that. The ones that have run already don't look all that great. Miles of Smiles is okay. Got a slow break. Probably could improve on the second start. Up in the Air is another one that is okay, but nothing crazy to the point where you're like, oh well, there's no standouts in this field at all. And usually in a race like this, as far as like multi-race bets, I'll spread out a little bit, not using the favorite, of course. And Tag Her kind of falls in that realm. I like the last workout coming into this, a 48-1, breezing from the gate at Palm Meadows. And, Cassie does very well with these kind of runners. And Uncle Mo, the sire, another one that throws out a lot of runners. So I think this horse will have a good shot, getting a good rider in Sean Bridgmohan, who's not actually, riding all that well at Gulfstream, but this could be the one that starts him off.
So that is on Saturday. We're looking at Tag Her on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. Make sure you tag her so that way she can get some of those likes, some of those retweets, some of that interaction. Also, while we're at Gulfstream Park, did you have anything for Saturday Gulfstream, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. So race one, actually, we'll go back to, I usually hate giving out plays in race one, but because I'm just like, oh man, I just already started off with, but hopefully this way you start off with a winner.
What's crazy is I one of my other picks, I kind of opted not to give this one out, but I wonder if we're on the same horse.
I don't know. I'm going to go with the Brio.
That was the one.
Nice.
Was it?
Okay.
All right.
That was the horse.
Awesome.
So we'll go with the Brio, the four horse in this one. This is going 8-1, and it's only going to cost you $3,000. Why do I like this horse? Barry could tell you why I like this horse. I think
for the same reasons.
Yeah, for a lot of the same reasons. You're getting blinkers, you're getting Lasix, and to Barry's point earlier, there is zero speed in this race. And nobody's going to go to the lead. I don't think. I don't know if Brio is necessarily going to go to the lead, but with blinkers, it's certainly going to be a lot more forwardly placed. And I don't think a lot of competition necessarily fighting for that early lead. I think, at this distance, I don't mind. It shows some ability at this distance. And then here's the other thing. We talked earlier about ROI. Bill Mott is the trainer of this horse. You got Junior Alvarado riding. So you have strong connections. You also then have, if you look, the first time Bill Mott uses blinkers on a horse, returning a $3.01 return on investment, winning 28% of the time. Gino, to your point, if you're going to bet $2 randomly and get $3 back, that's not a bad play.
Yeah.
And so this is just one where I looked at the race and I just didn't see a lot of pace. I think the blinkers being added is really beneficial. I actually like the pedigree. And I think Brio just has a chance of showing significant improvement from race one to race two in this particular spot. So for $3,000, I like this one a lot.
You got that.
Yeah, the only thing that actually kind of shied me away from giving this one out is you don't see Bill Mott with these kind of horses very often. And it was a little strange to me. And I was like, I do like this horse, but 16,000 claimers, not really his cup of tea, but this horse has a lot of upside going forward. So if this horse runs good, you're going to step, he's going to step up into a nice, decent winner's race after this.
It's funny, Barry, when you say, usually when something like that happens, you find out afterwards that it's like the trainer's cousin or someone.
He's training this horse as a favor or something that he doesn't normally do.
Yeah.
So it was a little strange.
Used to have one like this group that was one of Mr. B's group that he would claim horses with, and it was like, this doesn't make sense, but there's always a story there, right? Like when you
usually, my MO is about chaos in races. Mm-hmm. So, when it doesn't make sense, that's when I want to try to go that way.
Yeah, that narrative, you want to kind of read into it a little bit more if possible. So you get the Barry endorsement here along with Matt on the number 4 in race number 1.
I think the last time we were on the same horse, it was all go. I think it was Law Professor, right? I think we were all Law Professor.
That was the Law Professor Lock of the Week. Yeah, our guy Law Professor is going to be coming up again pretty soon, I believe.
Yeah, he was not. He was invited to the Pegasus. I'd
Yeah.
like to see him in that spot. To be
Yeah.
honest
Yeah.
with you,
Yeah.
pick up some pieces.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a nice animal. He could have a really
He's
good
talented. Yeah.
Yeah. And he can
Let's
book
not
both
give away our
surfaces.
picks for next week.
I was gonna say, we're gonna have, that's what we call in the business a tease.
Yeah,
A
we'll
tease.
have our law professor lock of the week again next week. I have a
There we
feeling.
go.
So-
There you go.
That was the mad idea, the law professor lock of the week. That's a great one. We got to get that segment going here. So Barry, I think you said race 9 for your other one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, where are we going at Gulfstream Saturday, race number 9? Who are we looking at?
This was a really interesting race. Again, I like these cheaper races because it's always chaotic, especially on the Tapeta. The horse I ended up going with was the 8 Impressive Speed. This horse, has quite a bit of synthetic form,
Yeah.
which I do like. Although he hasn't won on the synthetic, which is a negative, but he's not up against very much here. The horses that are probably going to take action, like the 10 Big Blue, is seems like a dead closer, and that's typically not the way you want to win these kind of races. It's not impossible to win that way, but a stalking trip is kind of ideal here.
Yeah.
Again, another one that might take some action is the 12, another Duke, stone cold closer. I think, Paco adds a lot to this horse here. He rides the synthetic probably down there better than anybody. And I think he's going to get this horse in a really good spot and make one run and try to pounce on whoever's in front at the time. Everybody else doesn't really look impressive at all. I mean, beyond those 3 horses that I mentioned, I'm going to always take the higher price.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
And it's just only natural because that's how you make money in this game. You can't make money, as they say, favorites don't pay the rent.
Yeah.
And it's definitely that kind of situation here because the other horses inside of them don't look that impressive. There may be a little bit of speed. Lucky as a 7 might go, Mac might go, but they don't look like
No, the
anything
only
great.
problem that we could have in this race is if we get the return of the Mac. She said she'd never turn on me. You lied to me.
Lied to us, man.
That's a jam.
Lied to us.
That's a jam back in the day, little return of the
What
Mac.
do you mean back in the day? That's still
I
a
know.
jam.
That is one of those that every time that comes on, I'm grinning. It's
You just
feeling
gotta
good.
move. You gotta move.
Yeah. You hear that song? I just love it. I love it. One of my buddies, he knows that, and when we're out having a few drinks, he'll just start playing it on his phone because he knows I'm gonna start getting
Hype.
okay,
Hype.
here we go. So no Mac today at Gulfstream.
No
Park.
Mac.
No Mac today. Mac, you can return next time or next week. We need the number 8 Impressive Speed for Barry. 8-1, only going to cost you $3,000 in your stable dual lineup, and you've got all that synthetic experience over at Woodbine. Going to transfer it over here at Gulfstream Park. While we're at Gulfstream, anything more for you on Saturday, Matt?
Yeah, I actually have one more, which is in race 8. And Gino, you're gonna have fun with the name of this one. Blame the champagne. And so if this one does not, if this one doesn't hit, we can certainly blame the champagne. On my selection of this.
Absolutely.
But this is a horse that this is a maiden special weight, $60,000. This is a horse that is dropping down in class from running $122,000 maiden special weights at Churchill Downs. Horse has hit the board for the last 4 times out, admittedly, often by many lengths. And so, but is a horse that does tend to just kind of pick up the pieces to runaway winners. Again, I think the drop down in class is helpful. There are a couple of nice horses in this race, but with maidens and, it's something that we've talked about a couple of times, rarely do they all fire. Rarely does every horse that looks good on paper actually come through and run to form in that race. So Blame the Champagne's a horse that just always seems to be around, always seems to be on the board. At 10-1 is going to cost you $1,000. And I just think this is a horse that doesn't mind the distance. So that's something that's important to point out because there are some horses that are stepping up in distance. They're also getting Lasix on this horse. and post position, I think, should lead to this horse being a little bit more forwardly placed. I think they're going to be a little bit more aggressive out of the gate and get this horse engaged a little bit earlier. You tend to see slightly better results when that happens. So I think this is a horse that, again, at 10-1 for $1,000, I like this horse to get you some positive points and to, if nothing else, pick up the pieces on the back end of the board and the back end of exotics. So, in a stable dual perspective, that's going to get you, somewhere between 20 and 30 points for $1,000 and keeps you right on target for what you need for a winning stable.
And if the horse doesn't win, we can just all scream at our friend Andrew Champagne. This is your fault. I'm blaming you, Champagne. What did you do, Champagne? Just scream at it. He'll love that. He'll get a kick out of that. And
I will definitely do that.
Right? Yeah.
No question about it. I would definitely do that.
We got the alcohol. Exactly.
Jamie Foxx.
We got the margarita and we got the champagne. So give me a little strawberry frozen marg, extra ice on the rim. That's my style. Absolutely. Champagne, pour me a little OJ in there too. That's what I have my mimosas on Sunday mornings when I'm watching football games all day long. So lots of drinks at Gulfstream Park. And I know Matt's going to be drinking. He'll be popping that champagne when he wins the Saturday Gulfstream contest there for Stable Duel. So as we shift away from Gulfstream, did anybody have any Tampa for Saturday? Matt's got one at Tampa for Saturday. Cool. So let's head to Tampa for Saturday. Matt, where are we going to go for Saturday for Tampa?
Yeah, Saturday at Tampa, we are going to go to, we'll just do one there, but we'll go to race 5, and we'll go with All Fool's Day, which is 8-1 for $3,000. This is a horse that's dropping down in class, and interestingly enough, beat a horse called Nantucketer 3 races ago to break its maiden. Nantucketer is in this race actually, and is 6-1. Some days I just I'm not quite sure, because we saw what happens when these two horses run against each other, and All Fool's Day is the better horse. So, or at least was that day, and certainly has stepped up to some higher claiming races after breaking that maiden. But is now stepping back down. So went from 25 to 16, now going back down to 8. And so this is a horse that's kind of, I think, trying to find where its best slot is going to be moving forward. And again, this is a horse that, has beaten other, horses at a shorter price in this field. And I think it was probably a little over its head the last 2 times out, but I would anticipate this horse is going to run much closer to its form that it ran in its maiden win of putting up a 60. Because if you look at that, this horse was also running, it wasn't as if that maiden speed figure was an anomaly. The horse had been running, solid high to mid 50s, even a 70 speed figure. So the horse had shown that it was progressing and going along nicely. And I just think this is a nice spot. I don't see any other horses that are too overwhelming in this field. And like I said, this horse, the one thing to watch out for is this horse does tend to have gait issues. So that's something which you just have to be aware of. But when this horse avoids gait issues, it does very well. I know that's an if, and that's something that's, you got to take into consideration. But for 8-1 at $3,000, I could see this horse potentially winning this race. It's certainly coming in second. And so I just really like the play here. I think if you avoid the gate issues, the drop down in class, knowing it's better than some of the competition in here, I like it.
That is on Saturday over at Tampa. So a nice juicy 8-1, only going to cost $3,000 for Matt in the Stable Duel lineups for Saturday at Tampa. So we're going to head now on over to Santa Anita. I think I have a couple of Santa Anitas. I think Barry might have a Santa Anita also for Saturday. And I won't have to go all that far at Santa Anita on Saturday to get to my first play, because I have a bombs away in race number 1 for everyone. This is one of those horses that we were talking about where you may be first, you may be dead last. This horse might not be that good, honestly, but it will literally cost you nothing in Stable Duel. I'm talking about the 4 Rack-a-Tap Tap. So this is a group of maiden special weights. They're going to be going 6 furlongs on the turf course. If you take the 4 out of this race, the other horses who have run, they kind of look the same. Trainer Please has shown a little bit of speed here. Cali Bay was a runner-up last time out. Magic Man and Santos to Wilson both have shown a little bit there. Nobody impresses me all that much. They're all fine. The 4 actually has some really interesting turf breeding. So Tamarack Bay was pretty good on the grass. Didn't win, but was competitive. It's really the horses that she's dropped have been excellent on the turf. You go back and look at horses like Ward and Jerry, who is a horse who is really, really solid on the grass, who has been and kept company with graded stakes runners on the turf, an 8-time winner on the grass. Tamarindo, who is actually a grade 1 winner on the synthetic. Tamarindo is multiple stakes placed on the turf as well. Then you start to see a lot of just winners. Luckerack, this was a really nice horse at one point who ended up dropping down the claiming ranks, but Luckerack could win on the turf, no problem. You get to Tamarack Smarty, was a 4-time winner on the grass, no issues on the turf there. You get to Unirack, who was a multiple winner on the grass there. Polmerack didn't win on the turf, but showed some turf success in some minor awards there. 6 Point Rack was a multiple winner on the turf here. I have no idea if Rack a Tap Tap is any good, but I do think this horse will take a big step forward today and has a lot more than they showed last time out in a race where they're going to be completely dismissed. Absolutely dismissed. Like, nobody's going to really get that excited to play a horse like this. This isn't a connections play, but if they break well with the blinkers going on, Valdivia is a very, very good grass jockey. He is excellent. Jose Valdivia is in that conversation with someone like Brice Blanc, who, no people don't really discuss as top tier jockeys, but on a turf horse, they are good. They know exactly when to press the button. Maybe Rack-a-Tap-Tap finishes dead last. Maybe Rack-a-Tap-Tap picks us up some points for nothing. But this is kind of a fun horse if you're playing an early pick 5, and if you're building, I always build, when I put them in, I usually have like multiple stable dual lineups. So if you're going to do that, maybe on one lineup, you throw this horse in, because then you can have a ton of coverage the rest of the way through. You can spend up, and then maybe in a different lineup, you do something a little bit else here. I'll give Rack-a-Tap-Tap a big shot in the opener at a big price, race number 1. So while we're at Santa Anita for Saturday, Barry, I think you said you had a play or two for Santa Anita, right?
Yep, race 7 and 9.
Race 7 and 9. Let's get to the 7th race, Saturday, Santa Anita. We're looking at the Clocker's Corner. So who are we looking at in here, Barry?
Yeah, this is a really good race. Everybody's very, very competitive. It must have been very difficult to create this morning line, because everybody looks kind of the same. Even the horse Weston doesn't look all that bad, even though kind of light in the speed figure department. But that horse gets out, who knows what could happen. But that being said, I'm looking to kind of go against the grain here, and I ended up on Border Town. I've been following this horse for a little bit, because I thought this horse has some really good potential way back in 2020. And I'm gathering the horse had some physical issues at some point, where there's some, not super long layoff lines, but long enough to where you could probably say, something went amiss. But every time this horse gets on the track, he runs very well. 6-year-old at this point. There's a lot to like here because of this horse's style and the post position. I like the outside post for this kind of horse, because the one will probably have to force his hand a little bit. Cedillo might have to hustle this horse out of the gate, and I don't necessarily think that's what this horse really wants to do. I think that horse likes to settle, because they can't let a horse like, Camaraderie get out in front of them, and because they have sort of the same style.
Yeah. Gives him some options being out there.
Exactly. And, and I think Vanzi and Barristan the Bold are definitely going to go to the front, and this horse can kind of ride their coattails and stalk as long as he can get in front of Weston. Even Weston has some speed that might end up going out and kind of pushing the pace here, and it sets it up, I think, perfectly for a horse like Border Town, who on the turf has been running in mile races, is cutting back to 6. I think that hits this horse right between the eyes, and I think this one's going to be the one to watch out for.
Border Town. I picked third in my selections, doing my Santa Anita stuff. I think a major player there. And while we're in this race, I'll talk about one horse that I like a little. That's also a price, Barry. So we're both looking for some price horses here. I thought the 5, Barristan the Bold, at 12-1 was interesting. See, so Barristan the Bold is coming out of a softer race where he won. It was a 25 starter allowance. But what I like is when you look at the bottom of the page, this is a horse who wasn't disgraced against Graded Stakes Company. He's another one. He's 6. He's had some issues. You can see he has some long layoff lines towards the bottom of his past performances. But since returning, it's like he's starting to kind of get fit again. He's starting to kind of get back to where like really nice top level form. And the $32,000 claimer 2 back, he had trouble at Los Alamitos. If you put a line through that, you're actually left with a string of 3 pretty decent turf sprint races. A win, a runner-up against 25 claimers, and then at 25 claimers, you flash a little speed going 6.5 and just got a little bit tired there. I actually think what we were saying, there's not that much speed. I think he's probably going to be pressing, like up close, forwardly placed, maybe sitting second or third here. And I wouldn't be shocked if this horse gets bet a little bit. The reason why he may not is just because the connections. Like if this same horse was just for a little bit more well-known jockey and barn, I think they'd get cut in half and probably be about 6-1. But you may end up getting 8-10-1 or so on Barristan the Bold in here. And that's not going to cost us all that much in Stable Duel. Barristan the Bold, 12-1 on the morning line, only going to cost you $7.50 to use in your Stable Duel lineup. So
we gave out the exacta.
Yeah, there we go. Boom. We got it for you, folks. Race number 7. So we're at Santa Anita. Matt, where are you looking?
I don't have any plays at Santa Anita for Saturday. So
for Saturday.
I just
Barry,
have Sam
one
Houston.
more. You said in the 9th, right?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Cool. So race 9 for Barry. We got my 2 for Santa Anita. If you need a little bit more help for Santa Anita for Saturday, I also did post I had so much on my podcast this week. I was sitting down and starting to edit it, and I was about 15 minutes over the time. And I was like starting to like do these mental gymnastics in my head. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to post a bonus 15-minute show with the Santa Anita stuff and the Sam Houston, because I don't want to get myself crazy trying to like cut 10 of this or cut 2 minutes of that or cut that. So if you need a little help, I went over races 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 with some thoughts. While we're in the 9th, Barry, tell us who you like to close out this Santa Anita card on Saturday.
Sweet Savant.
Nice.
The
nice.
1. I actually almost went to the 5 here. It's big.
That's who I went to.
I was close to selecting that horse because I think that horse actually is on the improve.
Yep.
But the reason I ended up going with Sweet Savant is I think this horse just needs another crack at it.
Yeah.
I think the horse just didn't, coming off the turf last time just kind of did this horse in.
Yep.
I think they were pointing towards a mile on the turf, and that's what they're getting on Saturday. And I expect a much improved effort. I think that first race, the experience is going to do this horse a world of good. And the only thing, barring any craziness, happening is kind of this horse not getting out of the gate. That's really the only thing that I'm worried about. But I'm not too worried about it because Tyler Bays likes to get horses out of the gate, and he's going to get a good position. This horse has the pedigree. Urton is very good. Second start, maiden special weight to maiden claimer. He's good. Yep. First time turf, first time Lasix. He's not so good, but I'll take it with a 3-year-old.
Yeah, there are plenty of good angles on Sweet Savant. No monsters in here. They're going to get back to the turf. We saw there is some success with siblings having one on the grass there. Sweet Savant. And as Barry mentioned, the 5 just a bit while we're here. Yeah, I just thought It's Big was a little intriguing. This barn is sneaky. They're very capable with young horses, even though a lot of their numbers don't look so. So younger horses, lightly raced horses, they do a really good job with. There's some turf pedigree here for It's Big. Don't be surprised to see this horse show up with a really nice effort. This one came running late there. Squeezed back at the start, was last inside, and really moved through nicely, closed nicely. Now you get the turf there. Even the Dam, who you click on the damn previewer, and there's no turf wins, right? I love horses like this but look at the 12-5 race. That's a good race. She was on the grass. She was only beaten 3/4 of a length in a race where she had trouble. People may look at a horse like this and go, oh, well, yeah, the dam didn't win on the grass. There's not like immediate grass success. But handicap those horses the same way we would here. If a horse has trouble in a race, that doesn't mean they don't like the surface or they can't run on it. That just means they may have been a little unlucky. I think there's some upside here. We may be able to scratch the surface a little bit with the 5 in race number 9. So in a couple races, Barry and I have given you some big price
exactas.
Right. For Saturday.
Definitely against the 8 in that spot, actually, in the race 9. I just don't think the 8 is worthy of that 4-1 morning line price. But, that's really what my main point was in especially picking the 1 is definitely betting against the 8.
That's the attack, and that's the approach for that race is anti-8 for the both of us. We'll try to get a little creative as we get to our final track that we're going to talk to you about a little bit. I have a couple plays for Saturday, Sam Houston. I've got 2, and I know, Matt, you've got 1 or 2 out there for Sam Houston for Saturday. So tell us, where do you want to go for your first Sam Houston play? Or I don't know if you have 2 or multiple, whatever.
Yeah, I just have 1 for Saturday, but we can go to race 3 and we'll look at the 4-horse Electoral. Listen, some people know this about me. I used to be a political science professor. So you give me a good political science name on a horse. I'm a sucker for it. That's why I like the horse Gerrymander. There's just, horses with political names. I'm all over that. So Electoral, I should say, is, this is one where, to me, this is a play on connections, which if people have been paying attention to Sam Houston thus far, you look at this horse, you're giving me 12-1 morning line on a J.R. Caldwell horse ridden by Lane Luzzy. Those 2 have been absolutely on fire at Sam Houston. And so it's a barn that's had a lot of success, a jockey that's had a lot of success on a horse that's a long price. That's actually one of the things I like to do a little bit at Sam Houston initially, because Luzzy and Stuart Elliott and Rye Eichelberry have been on such a roll there. Those 3 are kind of the clear top 3 jockeys at Sam Houston. I love to go through and just see, are any of those jockeys on horses at a long price? Because, there might be something there that people are overlooking. And so this is a horse, Electoral, that had a little bit of a layoff, came back, ran right behind Crazy Legs Hirsch, who's 3-1 among the morning line favorites in this race. And then last time out, finished a couple lengths behind Declined, who is the morning line favorite in this race. So this horse showed it's not that far off from the best horses in this field. And I trust the connections in this case.
Yep.
And
this horse is getting bet. There's no way this horse is 12-1. This horse is going to be half of that.
Exactly.
So you sniffed that, like, that's what you're doing nowadays in Stable Duel. And once you start to play Stable Duel a good amount, I handicap races and I notice things right away. And it's like, oh, Stable Duel. Like you're looking at a horse and you're like, this horse is going to get bet down. Boom. Like, I'm going to attack this race and absolutely use this horse in my lineup,
Yeah. This horse, this is a solid horse. I mean, the only thing that you have to worry about here is this horse getting a super wide trip, which it just seems to always get super wide trips. It just goes, halfway to, freaking Amarillo around the 3rd and 4th turn. But like, it's just, it's one of those where if this horse breaking a little bit more inside you can save some distance. I think this horse is a good play. And it's funny when you do handicap, as much as we try to find the winners, I'm like you, Gino. There are so many times where I go, I think this horse is like a 3rd place horse.
Yeah.
And I look at the odds and I'm like, hey, this is a good Stable Duel play because for $750, which is what Electoral is, hey, if I can get a 3rd place or a 2nd place out of this horse, that's a win. So that's just one I like to play the connections. And I think this horse has shown competency against this field.
This jockey trainer combination has won with 20 out of their last 83 when they've teamed up. So that's a 24% win percentage. That is another blind positive ROI, 242. So if you're just betting $2 every time they team up, you're making money. At this meet alone, so far, we've seen these 2 team up with Heaven's Princess at 7-2. We've seen these 2 team up with Attain Success at 6.5 to 1. We've seen these two team up with Singapore Flash last night at almost 6 to 1. And they probably should have won with Jan's turn to win, who had a brutal trip up the inside. Just feels like every time they're teaming up, they are live. I mean, look, even a little before, we had Texas Ascot Queen at 9 to 1. We had Timed Event at 5.5 to 1. So anytime, like, Luzzy is a very, very good rider. And honestly, with Luzzy, one of the things that it is, he's a good speed rider.
Yeah.
And if you're aggressive in this day and age, especially if you're someone that's even remotely aggressive, you're probably going to win a lot of races, because there are a lot of jockeys out there all across the country that aren't aggressive, that just kind of don't seem like they have a plan all the time, or maybe they just kind of break and then they just see where they want to go. It feels like with Lane, he will try to get speed out of horses that don't have speed. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it hurts, but I say it like this. There's no reason that any horse has to be dead last all the time.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
Like, there's some times where you can be 6th of 8 or 5th of 8 or just a length or two in front. So you literally don't have to weave in and out of every horse. That's what I know what I'm going to get with Luzzy. You're always going to get a good run for your money there. And this connections, they have been awesome. So that's at Sam Houston tonight. I'll give you two that I'm looking at quickly tonight at Sam Houston. First of them in race number 5. Now, really pay attention later today, because we are going to find out later today if Gold Crusher is going to run today. Gold Crusher is entered on Friday and on Saturday. Now, if Gold Crusher doesn't run in this race, the 7 has a huge shot to steal the race. Even if Gold Crusher does run in the race, I still think Viatorum's got a shot. I mean, honestly, Men of Kyle, who is the favorite in here, 9 to 5 on the morning line, Viatorum was favored over Men of Kyle on August the 21st at Remington Park, and Viatorum just completely missed the break. And we haven't seen. So Viatorum in this race that we're watching is the number 1. Not only missed the break, but did it from the rail. So draws the rail, completely misses the break here afterwards, and is going to be shuffled back from the inside. I guess it wasn't as bad as I had made note, but the trip from being down there, you're just no shot. Now you're stuck down inside. It wasn't as really the break as much as just being this far back afterwards. Now Viatorum comes back, draws the outside, and they've shown a little bit of, tracking. They can sit off. So if there is no 4 in this race, the 7's going to get bet down a ton from that 8 to 1 morning line. You're only going to be paying 3,000 because of that morning line. So the morning line odds are all going to be screwed up from this race, or the 7's going to be the horse to catch and beat. And even with the 4, I still think the 7 can sit off a little bit from the outside if need be. So Viatorum, who is 8 to 1 on the morning line, only going to cost you 3 to 1. That's one horse that I would recommend using on Saturday night at Saturday night Sam Houston Stable Duel. And then I got one more for you to close out the card on Saturday night at Sammy Houston. Wow, next week too, I forgot. Next week, we've got the Pegasus, but we've also got Houston Ladies Classic on Sunday there at Sam Houston. So we'll have a big Saturday with the Pegasus. We'll have a big Sunday with Sam Houston.
And I'll say just on that line, I would advise all of our listeners right now to, if they don't already, follow Jessica Paquette, JM Paquette on Twitter. She does the on-air work at Sam Houston. She's going to be there in person for the Ladies Classic. And one of the things I love about Jessica, she throws out bombs.
Oh yeah,
and they hit. And so she's really good at throwing out some really good stable duel plays and finding horses that are going to get bet down from post time, but have some really high morning line odds.
Okay, so to close things out at Sam Houston on Saturday, give me a Jolly Rancher, fellas. I want some hard candy here. I'm going to go Hard Candy, who is going to return to the turf, and Hard Candy is going to stretch out and try a mile on the turf for the first time. This is a horse who's obviously had some physical issues, right? He's 5. He's only raced 5 times. He debuted. He was favored in his debut for Asmussen at Remington Park. After that race, he showed up at Sam Houston, showed a little bit of speed in January of 2020. And then in June of 2020, you could tell he had some physical issues, though, because he was off for 6 months, shows back up in June, and then he's off from June of 2020 to November of 2021. But he shows back up in November of 2021. Whatever was wrong, they figured it out. He shows up for a new barn, and he runs a really gigantic race at 17-1 sprinting on the turf. He comes flying late. He's only beaten a length there, and he comes back a little over a month later on the dirt. And what he does is he just shows that he's feeling good by finishing second that day. He's 6 lengths defeated, but he was no doubt the second best in that field. Now you're going to go third start off the really long layoff. We know that he's got some success on the turf. I feel like stretching out should really help him. He's actually shown a little bit more speed, and maybe he has some of that now, going 2 sprints to a route, stretching back out. Give me that red Jolly Rancher. Oh, those little ones, man, those are some of my favorite. Those little circular ones. I used to just have jars of those bad boys. Dentists don't like them. They get stuck in my teeth. They're going to mess up my fillings and everything, but tasty on a Saturday night. Some hard candy over at Sammy Houston. And that is going to do it for this week in Stable Duel. I guess it's this weekend in Stable Duel as we go over everything happening on Friday and Saturday. Barry, my man, that is a sharp fly-looking hat. Tampa's got a big game coming up this weekend. Actually, we're going to be doing some battle, you and me. We got the Rammies versus Tampa out there where you're located. So
all I have to say is this wouldn't be the first time that Tom Brady got the best of the Rams.
No, would not be the first time, and it probably will not be the last time. It's a lie. Would not be the first time, will not be the last time. And, Tom Brady is an absolute machine. I will say, just as a look, the games this weekend, they're really
excellent.
They're awesome. All 4 of the matchups. I mean, literally any one of them. If the underdogs won all 4 games, it wouldn't
be surprised, right?
Wouldn't be a shock.
No surprise.
Just great football games. That's what you want when you're down to the Elite 8 in the NFL now, when we've got just 8 teams left. So, Barry, my man, give us your plugs again. Big Monday, going in circles. Where can we find you?
Big Monday, going in circles. Twitter, Urban Handicapper, URBN Handicapper. You know where to find me.
That's why I make the money.
Hey, I'm gonna be at the Pegasus also. Myself and Chuck. Great. So, yeah, come see me.
Please go on.
Always
out,
around.
Go on out there and do me a favor. Go out and buy Barry a drink or some food. Or
oh man, you don't want that.
On me. I'll send you a little Venmo to go over and give Barry a drink.
You don't want that.
Well, no problem. When you're out there. I've always been that way too. When my friends would come to the track with me, they'd come over and buy me a drink, and I'd say, "Hey, at the end for the last race or 2, we'll have a drink, but not yet.
Sodas.
Not yet. Right now, this is focused because I don't want to mess something up. Right? That we put in all the time, we handicapped everything. I'll have more fun drinking after I hit than if I'm doing right now. So. Wait, always wait. There's a time to work. There's a time to play. There's a time for Matt to give us his plugs. Matt, tell us a little about the Win Play Show podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Got the Win Play Show. You can get it on the podcast platform of your choice. You can also subscribe to it on YouTube. Typically have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday show. Mondays are race recaps and interviews with industry figures. Wednesdays is horse racing news, from tracks to trainers to horses to, right now, foaling news. That's the big news that's out there. Seeing all the foals. That's the sort of Twitter cleansing timeline that you need. Baby horses to keep you from whatever we're arguing about amongst each other on any given day. Yeah. Cool. And so, and then on Fridays, I do race previews. And so this one is not a Stable Duel week, actually, but it's a huge race at the fairgrounds, 14 race card. So if you want to go check out my preview, I had Jeff from Charting Horse Value, who's a really good guy. He and I went through all the stakes races on Lecomte Day, so Louisiana Derby, and the Lecomte and Silver Bullet Day. I got picks for all 14 races on that card. And let me tell you something. If there's one horse I can't quit, it's freaking Midnight Bourbon. I don't want to bet this horse, but damn it, I just can't keep myself from picking this horse to win. But it should be a great
spot, right? I mean, he's going to catch Mandaloon coming off the bench. This is the spot where it feels like maybe.
Sure. I mean, it always feels like it's a good time to pick Midnight Bourbon, but he never wins.
He shows up and he gives a good account for himself. One horse, if you're playing that card, keep an eye on that I like, Trafalgar. I'm very interested in that horse continuing to progress. I sort of like that he was a little green. He got headed, and then he passed the test and kicked back open. His His replay was pretty impressive for what I was looking for. So keep an eye on him. A fun weekend out at Fairgrounds. And now moving forward, this is kind of what we're going to get. For the next 3 months, it just sort of rotates. We've got Fairgrounds, and then all the prep. Each track has a different weekend where it's their preps. Next weekend will be Gulfstream. And then it ends up being, Oaklawn. Then we go to Santa Anita for one of their big prep weekends. Then Keeneland opens up before we know it, and we're talking about their prep. So a lot of fun. And there aren't, honestly, right now, it's wide open.
Yeah.
Like normally,
nobody stepped up. Yeah,
we don't know
nobody's filled in that
Stafford stuff, right? We have no idea with a lot of those horses that are getting points, but they're not even qualified yet because we don't know if they're going to be allowed to run. So Corniche and some of those, it is wide open, and I'm going to have a lot of fun digging in. I got a fantasy horse racing draft next week, so I'm going to start looking at 3-year-olds now who I need some of those Triple Crown horses. Make sure to give Barry a follow for great information. He's a ton of fun to interact with on Twitter. His meme and his gift game is the absolute best, no doubt about it. And Matt DeSantis over there, always working hard, providing you great content. Guys, I got to say, this has been a blast. I look forward to this every week now. You guys really help me. You lead me to a couple horses that may not have been on my radar. So that way later when I'm playing maybe a stable dual lineup, I end up throwing in one of your guys' horses. When I'm playing pick 4s and pick 5s, I'm almost always adding the horses you mentioned because they're prices, right? Yep. Like if I'm playing a pick 3 and I look down, I'm like, oh yeah, that was Barry's horse who's 10-1. Of course I'm going to throw him in. It's not going to hurt. I'm not throwing in a 2-5 shot, right? So of course I will do that. And I really appreciate it. Excellent job. Excellent prep work as always. You guys go home, kick back, and enjoy your weekend. Friday and on Saturday. Thank you so much, Barry. Thank you so much, Matt. And thanks to all of you. Don't forget those X Games. So we got about, like an hour to get in for the X Games contest. So. You've got around an hour for all of the stable duel contests today. Tampa opens up in about 50 minutes, 51. Gulfstream, you've got a little over an hour for their first. And then the X Games start right then, too. The X Games are free. If you're playing, just go have fun. Put in a lineup. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to cost you anything. Maybe you make a few bucks and you've got some more money there where you want to play in some of the horse racing games. So good luck, Barry. Good luck, Matt. Good luck to all of you. Get those entries in and play, race, win.
Better. You want to spread your pony knowledge by. Stable duel. Your horse racing fantasy comes true.